would you say that you're seeing positive signs brewing these days? It's a little bit contradictory what I read. Sometimes it seems that way. It seems the public attitudes towards the importance of diet could be shifting, and some of the negative health trends are turning around or slowing down. And other times it seems that everything's trending worse and worse. What do you see?
I'm actually very heartened by the pace of change right now in the food environment. So, the discussions and conversations that we're having today definitely would not have occurred even just a short decade ago. And people didn't, it's not that they didn't care, I just don't think that this was on anybody's radar. And sometimes I think we as a society, especially if you're advocating for changes and improvements, we kind of get bogged down by our very short lifespans in the grand scheme of things. I mean, we don't live all that long, but changes, they don't tend to occur in huge systems overnight. I mean, these are giant cruise ships that need to turn around, and that takes time. It may even take generations. But if we take a step back and look at the progress that has been made in the food front over the course of the past 10 years, it's actually occurring at a very rapid pace. When we compare it with the pace of tobacco, if you think back to the 50s and 60s when the first concerns were expressed about tobacco, change was much slower than it is now. Maybe now the change is fueled in part by the social media world we've got. Being able to give talks like this to an audience is something that's unique and new, and certainly Twitter's and blogs and other so many sorts of avenues. But I think in general, it's also been a burn me once, shame on you, burn me twice, shame on me situation where we do recognize the pattern that has been put forward by industries whose interests were more important than public health. Understandably so, to be blunt. The food industry, the tobacco industry, their job is to sell their products, not to promote health. So, all this to say, I think we're doing great. And I'd be surprised if we don't see really dramatic and formative changes occurring over the next 20 or 30 years. And honestly, in my mind, that's very rapid.
So I should take comfort in the fact that I just might die really soon and not see the change. Okay, thank you for those encouraging words. No, that's good to hear. There's there's also been more action by government on the regulation side. What did you think of the recent announcement of a new healthy food strategy by the Federal Minister of Health, Jane Philpott? Is this part of this trend that's more positive in terms of recognizing food as a key driver?
Well, I'm hopeful, but again, until we see what actual changes are rolled out, it's difficult to really weigh in on whether or not we're doing the right thing or going down the right path. I had the fortune and pleasure of meeting with Dr. Philpott once, and it was very clear from that meeting that she cares quite deeply about these issues, and I think absolutely understands the ramifications of food on health and chronic disease here in Canada, and that there is a lot of work to be done. Remember, though, that she is one person and Health Canada is an arm of government, and even if she is on side, that doesn't mean she'll be able to affect the changes that might make all of us thrilled to pieces overnight. Sometimes these changes occur incrementally. Sometimes they happen at a pace, again, more slowly than we would want. But I am hopeful, and I'm hopeful on the food guide file. I'm hopeful some on the added sugar file. And my understanding, there was a report yesterday in something called Blacklock's Reporter, where there was a reference being made to some policy that's going to be coming out shortly in regard to helping Canadians identify sources of added sugars. I am hopeful too that we will see regulations of trans fats. But again, we need to sit back and wait. And certainly, if what comes from Health Canada doesn't, meet as much of the needs as we'd hope for, we need to continue to make noise about it. But I'm certainly more hopeful with this government than I was from our last government.